Me and my sister Sarah are twins, so we had the same birthday. On our 13th birthday, we both were excited to get a cake, but when our dad came back home, he only had a tiny box in his hand. Yes, that's right, it was a cake. A cupcake, to be very precise, without any candles. And 4 people were supposed to eat out of it. After that incident, we never mentioned our birthdays again. Unlike me, my sister still had a childlike mind and wishes, and I couldn't see her hurt like that. At 14, I started working secretly at a local shop near school. I'd collect my salary and bring a gift for my sister on our birthday. This was our little secret, until my dad got a hint of it. As soon as he found out, our home turned into a fighting arena. He took my piggy bank and threw it on the floor, taking all the money I had collected. He said, "How did you get all this money? Have you been stealing from me?" "No, I didn't steal anything from you. That's my own money. I collected every penny of that after working hard. Please give it back to me." "No way. You live in this house free of rent. I am keeping this and will consider it your first rent." I was devastated. I wanted to get my mom and sister new sweaters with that money, but this greedy man didn't even leave a cent for me. Hi, my name is Edgar, and I'm going to tell you my story. We all meet a greedy person in our life at least once. But the tragedy with me was that I was born to a greedy man who only knew how to save money, even if that meant making his family's life miserable. He would only allow my mom to make food once in the entire day. We were not allowed to eat anything other than what was cooked. In fact, our food portions were fixed and we couldn't even get a refill if we felt hungry. An average human only needs this much food to survive. If you eat more, you'll get fat anyways. In our home, we didn't get new clothes until our older ones were totally unwearable. And even the new ones were bought under my dad's supervision from the thrift store. $5? No, that's too expensive. You can't get anything that costs more than $2. My sister and I would go to school on foot. And even though our dad was a literal millionaire, he never bought us nice backpacks or shoes. While winters were harsh on us, summers were worse. It's not like our home didn't have a cooling system, but well, what could we do if our dad didn't allow us to turn it on at all? We were growing old and we had already made amends with the life we were bound to live. But on our 16th birthday, Dad decided to mess it all up yet once again. When we got back home, he was there sitting on the sofa. As we entered, he started yelling at us with a school fee voucher in his hand. "You useless pieces of crap! Why is your tuition fee so high? What the hell do you need those stupid books for?" We siblings stood there in shock. This was the last thing we were expecting after getting back home. He came and snatched our old backpacks from our shoulders and threw them out of the house. Sarah started begging him to stop, but he did what he wanted. "Both of you will not go to school anymore. Sarah will stay at home and help Mom, and you," he turned towards me, "you'll go to the bank with me and work there." I knew it was over for us then. The next day, I woke up to my father standing over my head yelling at me. He pulled me out of bed and asked me to get ready. I was to go to work with him. I didn't even get to have any breakfast, and he just pulled me with him. As soon as we reached the bank, I was led to the cleaner's room. "What is this?" "It's a mop." "But why are you giving it to me?" "Because this is what you'll be doing from today onward." I couldn't believe what I had heard, but I wasn't in a position to fight back. So I took the mop and started cleaning around as instructed. The work was more than I expected. I was even making coffee for everyone, and I still hadn't met my dad even after 3 days of working there. One thing I realized while working there was that my father was greedy to the level of being evil. He wasn't paying people their salaries on time while he himself enjoyed everything to the fullest. I learned this when I overheard an employee talking about the problem he was facing due to the delay in salary payment. "I really need my salary now. My daughter is in the hospital, and I have no money to pay for her treatment anymore." "I understand, but they keep delaying our paychecks every month. It has become unbearable now." He was crying, and it hurt me because that's not what I imagined would be happening at the bank. He was overworking almost everyone and wasn't paying them their dues. But one day, he hit the bottom line. While I was cleaning the floor, my dad arrived. I was happy to see him and thought that he would at least stop and say hi. He did stop, but not to say hi. There was a mud spot left on the floor. He noticed it and started screaming at me, telling me how useless I was. His words pierced through my heart, and standing there felt so difficult. And right when I thought it was over, he walked to me and threw away the mop I was holding. "You can't work here anymore." I stood there in disbelief. "Leave this building right now and never dare go home either." I couldn't understand what exactly happened, but he was definitely kicking me out for one mistake. I tried to say something, but he didn't let me, and asked the guards to take me away. He was greedy and merciless and left me to fend for myself in the cold, cruel world. I wasn't allowed to enter my home either. I was heartbroken and devastated, feeling lost and alone, but I refused to give up. I spent that day wandering around and didn't sleep at all because I had nowhere to go. I didn't have many friends, and the only one who I knew would let me stay was Johnny. But the thing was that I had never contacted him for a while. I was hungry and cold, forcing me to go to Johnny for help. I knew he was living alone in his apartment. After all, he didn't have a family, which was one reason why we stopped meeting up. When I asked him, he didn't try to advise me or judge me, but instead welcomed me with his arms open and even fed me food. I crashed at his place every night after, looking for a job the entire day. My mother had sent me some money, but she couldn't give much because that would alarm my greedy dad about it. But I lost that money to a druggie while returning to Johnny's place after an entire day of the job hunt. Now I didn't have a penny. I didn't want to trouble my friend too much, so I never mentioned anything about this incident and always said that I ate outside when he asked. But for some reason, he'd still give me food to eat. This kept happening for many days, and I knew that I had to make something of myself, no matter how difficult it might be. And right when I thought I couldn't get a job, Johnny asked me if I wanted to work as a caretaker. I happen to know someone who's been looking for a caretaker for an elderly relative. If you're interested, I could tell them about you. Oh, any job would work at this point, really, but I don't have much experience. Actually, the old guy doesn't let any caretaker stay, so now they are looking for inexperienced people too. I think let's give it a go. I need a job anyways. Johnny set me up, and I was called for an interview. I went to the address, and surprisingly enough, it was a big old mansion. A man in his 50s with almost white hair opened the door. He didn't have a smile on his face. It was at that point that I started rethinking my choices, but it was too late. You must be Edgar. Yes, sir, I'm Edgar, and I'm here for the caretaker job. I followed him as he kept walking and finally stopped in front of a room. Don't make too much noise. He isn't up from his afternoon nap yet. When we entered the room, I saw an old man lying on the bed. He looked like he was in his late 70s or early 80s, and I didn't know what exactly they wanted me to do there. Right then, the man turned around. If you're to do this job, you'll need to sit by his side, talk to him, and read him books at times. Is that something you can do? Yes, I guess. I was confused. I didn't know what better answer I could give to that question. I was supposed to start right away, and so I did. After almost half an hour, the man woke up. I sat there silently when he started speaking, but as soon as he woke up, I saw him get angry in a matter of seconds. Who are you? He said angrily. Sir, I'm Edgar. I'll be taking care of you from today onwards. I tried to stay calm. I don't need anyone's help. On the first day, I didn't feel his anger as much because, honestly, I thought I won't be going back. But then I was forced into doing the job because, after all, I needed some money to survive. So I went there again. This time, the old man threw a glass at me with as much power as he could to make me leave. The only thing I thought was that he couldn't be as bad as my dad. If I could deal with my father's behavior, I could do this too. He would do something to make me feel bad and leave the job every day. Sometimes he'd yell at me. Other times, he would refuse to answer my questions. He even injured me a couple of times by throwing anything in his hands at me. But because I refused to leave, he started getting calmer with every passing day. He still wasn't very friendly, but I noticed that he was often expecting me to show up. I read him his favorite books and sometimes even told him about my life, thinking that he would say something. But he never replied, except for one time. It was when I was telling him the story of my life and how I ended up homeless and couldn't continue my education. Your dad will know what he lost one day. You should stay strong. Things will get better. That was the first and last time he actually talked to me, because the next day, when I went to work, things changed. As I entered the mansion, there was silence. The old guy had passed away. I didn't know why, but I had tears in my eyes. I had grown fond of him and loved spending time around him. After we were done with the funeral, I went home. For the next few days, I didn't leave my home. One day, while I was just lying around in my tiny apartment, I heard a knock on my door. I peeped through the door hole and saw a man standing outside. He looked like a lawyer because of the attire he was wearing. I opened the door, wondering who he was. Oh, hi, I'm here to meet Edgar. That's me. But do I know you? No, you don't actually. I'm Mr. Paul's lawyer and need to talk to you about something. Paul was the name of the old man I was taking care of. I was confused. Why would his lawyer be here at my home? He followed me inside. Actually, I am here because your name was mentioned in Mr. Paul's will. My name? Why would it be in his will? I said, worried that I might have done something wrong. Yes, he left you a few things in his will. What things? He took out a folder from his bag and opened it in front of me. Well, according to the will, he has left you some money and half of his mansion. Money? Mansion? Why? I can't really say, but he got it written in the will a couple of days before his passing. Paul had left me so much money and even a house. I didn't know what to say, and I just sat there with my jaw dropped. He made me sign some documents and handed me a check for $50,000. As he left, I couldn't move from where I was sitting. He cared for me much more than my own dad did. A few months passed. I had now moved into one of the sections of the mansion. It was the same one where Paul used to stay. I also got myself enrolled in school and started studying accounting and finance. I worked hard, and in my free time, I'd go through his books and read them. As the years passed, I became more and more successful. I passed the school, and instead of getting a job, I decided to set up a firm of my own. After endless work and research, I was finally able to get my auditing firm registered. This was something I started with 2 of my friends and former classmates. Because the services were in demand, it didn't take long for the business to thrive. Now our company is well known in the industry, and as I grew wealthier and more powerful, I couldn't help but think about my father and all the ways he had wronged me. I found out that my dad was struggling to save his bank from bankruptcy. Apparently, fraud cases were going on against his bank, and just like any other company in distress, they also approached my firm for help. Little did they know that I was the same kid the boss of their bank had abandoned. Our company was hired to help him investigate the fraud cases and find a way to recover the losses. I decided to go meet my dad in person and reveal who I was. When he came in, he greeted me as if I was the best person in the world, but as soon as I turned around, he was left speechless and stunned. I stood up. Hi, I am Edgar, I said with a sarcastic smile on my face. Edgar? Why are you here? Your company hired my firm to help you out with all the fraud cases you're dealing with. But how? How is this even possible? He was clearly scared. He knew what I could do since I was working on such a sensitive task. I won't say that I'm here to help you, but I am here just to help the bank that my forefathers built after working hard. And from the look on your face, I can see what's scaring you. But I am not someone like you. I am not someone who'd abandon my family because greed or revenge came in between. But all I did to you was wrong and cruel. I didn't say anything and left the room instantly. I had waited for this day to come for so long. I wanted my dad to think about everything he had done to all of us. A few months back, I came up with a plan, because I knew it was about time I did something about what my father had been doing. The bank wasn't functioning well, and there was something suspicious about it. That's when I got in contact with a senior accountant working at my dad's bank. His name was Adam. Apparently, Adam was going through a harsh patch of his life and was in desperate need of money. I did a background check because I needed someone exactly like him to help me out. I asked him to meet me up, and he agreed after I told him that I was his boss's son. I need to meet you, but you cannot tell anyone about it. Otherwise, both of us will be in big trouble. He was confused at first, but soon we did meet up. I waited for him at a cafe, and thankfully, he showed up. Instead of going into any unnecessary details, I told him what I wanted. I know you need money for your children, and I can give it to you. But in exchange, you'll have to give me something. What do you need? And why are you even trying to help me? He was worried that I was trying to scam him. First of all, consider it an apology. My dad has made your life miserable. Secondly, only you can help me with this mission. I want to teach my father a lesson. He has ruined enough lives, and it's time for him to know what it feels like to be helpless. How will you do that? I know something wrong is happening at the bank, and you're the only one who can get me all that information. If you can give me that, I can give you what you need. He was silent. And I already knew he'd be scared. After all, his job was at risk, and he could be blacklisted if something like this was revealed. I don't know. Honestly, I want to help you, but I have built this reputation in years. This could really ruin it all. How about you take your time and think about it? I can give you $1 million if you agree to do this for me. After hearing the amount I was ready to give, he started thinking and asked me to give him some time because he was still unsure what to do. I handed him my business card and asked him to contact me whenever he decided to help me out. For an entire month, I didn't hear from him. One day, I finally received a call. It was Adam. Hi, it's me, Adam. He hesitated. Does the offer still stand? Hey, yes it does. I'll assume you did change your mind. Actually, I haven't received my paycheck still, and my debt keeps piling up. I'm about to lose my house, so yes, I need to do this now. If you can meet me somewhere, I can give you what you need, only if you bring the money with you. Okay, sure. You decide the place and text me. I'll be there on time. We met at a remote place and exchanged the things we both needed the most. He gave USB. After all, Adam was the senior accountant. He had access to all the transactions, even the suspicious ones. I was surprised to see that it wasn't my dad who was messing around, but some staff was involved in it. But I could turn it up on my father. So I leaked the least problematic things to the FRD. FRD is fraud section. And those were about the anonymous transaction, but there was a lot more going on. I needed to fix that, along with getting revenge on my father, and patiently waited for them to come to me. After all, my company was on top when it came to solving such cases. Now that they had hired my company, I asked my team to investigate everything. We already had so much stuff to check on, but I also asked them to take it slow. I wanted my dad to get a taste of his own dish. We made sure my father was worried for the first few months. In the meantime, I also met my mother and sister and asked them to move in with me. My mom was hesitant at the start, but she agreed after a while. As I arrived at my dad's home to fetch them up, my dad happened to be there too. He looked sad. With his business going down, he had already grown weak. After all, he loved his money more than anything. Alyssa, are you going to leave me in this situation?
I think it's about time I start living in peace. I was forced into staying with you because I didn't have anywhere to go. But now I do, so yes, I am leaving.
Sarah, at least you can stay. You're my sweet little daughter, he said to my sister.
Sorry, Dad, but I have never loved living here with you. All my life, you've only hurt me. I forgive you for all that, but now it's time for me to leave.
We drove off to my mansion that day. My mom was amazed to see the house I was living in. For my dad's bank, my team went through everything from the transactions to any irregularities we could find in any of the systems. We even filed a plea to the court to give the bank some margin to avoid bankruptcy and do a better job in the future. After the issue was solved, my dad wanted to hand over the bank to my sister and me, but both of us refused to take it. Sarah was now working on her social work, while I was happy with my own business. My mom now buys things without worrying about anyone insulting her, while my dad has now started giving to more charities. Only if he had learned this before, none of us had to go through all of this. We go to meet him in the holidays because after all, no matter what he did, he's still my dad.